Alrighty, we know what mean, median, and mode are, and kind of how to calculate them by hand. But this program here, so this is just Google Sheets. I've got some data here. This one will be more for you to explore and see what you can come up with. When you're on Google Sheets, I don't know if you can see that at the bottom there. Let me try and fix that for you. Down at the bottom here, there's different tabs. So I can switch between this test data or the Skittles data. I'm going to show you some stuff with this test data, and then I'll let you see what you can come up with the Skittles data. Here are a bunch of test scores for maybe a different semester in this math class. Who knows? What we want to do is we want to figure out the class average on this test, the median, the mode, and the standard deviation. And maybe I'll do one more because it's always good to have a nice graph. Remember, we said how graphs are nice to look at because we can immediately see how people are doing. So maybe I'll put together a graph as well. For calculating average on here, remember on our calculators we would have to add up every single piece. So all this would be annoying to add up and then divide by, how many are there? 31 it says here, but the first one isn't a real one, so 30 pieces of data. What we can do is we can type, we go onto our cell, so I'm going to pick this one right beside class average and put equals average, because the average is the mean, right? The numerical average in a data set. So I'm going to pick this one pops up. I'm going to pick it. I'm going to select all the data that I want to take the average of, and then we can just hit enter, or we can close the bracket there and hit enter. It kind of scrolled down, but there we go, there's our average. So the class average on that test was about 71%, which is not bad. Let's see how the median, so remember the median is the middle number there. With 30 pieces of data, even though there's no decimals here, it could be a decimal because that means that there would be half of 30 is 15, 15, 15, so it would be in the middle of that. Let's type in equals median, there it is, and I'm going to say of all this data again, I want to figure out the median of that. And again, we got a decimal, and it makes sense because it would be right in the middle of the two. So there was probably a 75 and a 76 in the middle. The middle of that is 75.5. Mode is which piece of data showed up the most often. So let's see, equals mode. And again, we might use mode more if it is kind of like qualitative data, not quantitative. So if it's like, what's your favorite color? And there's reds and blues and greens. Mode makes more sense, what one happens the most often. But let's see, mode, we'll go through all this. Highlight that stuff, close my bracket. Let's see what it gave us. 78, so they're all pretty close, so there might be a couple 78s. Standard deviation, we saw that big formula. We're not going to have to calculate that. We can calculate it here pretty easily. There are, oh no, it's a bit different, STD. Now if you look here, there are a whole bunch of different standard deviations. We have got the entire population, so I'm going to choose this one. But there is standard deviation, there's standard deviation of a sample, standard deviation of an entire population. I haven't used these next ones. Standard deviation of an entire population, another one, standard deviation, and of a sample. I don't know what these extra ones are here, but I'm gonna go with this because we've got the entire population. Oops, this one. So the standard deviation for us, we can kind of think of it as It's the amount of deviation, it's the standard deviation from the mean, or we can kind of think of it as even though this would be the variance would be the average variance from the mean, or change from the mean, we can kind of think of it like that, and how spread out is the data from that average up there of 71% or 70.96%. Okay, now I got a bunch of stuff. Now, what I may want to do is make a histogram of all this. Excel has got ways, and I don't have the newest Excel, I've got an older Excel, so it doesn't have this nice thing. But if I just highlight all my data and I come up here to insert chart, it already made a chart here. Now, I don't quite like what it's going up by. It looks like it's going up by 14s. All the data from 30 to 44 are in here. From 44 to 58 are in here. So I'm going to customize this a little bit. I want my histogram bucket size. Now it's doing an auto bucket size. So we get generally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want about, I don't know, if you have too many buckets, it gets a little bit confusing. A lot of the time they say a general rule is you want maybe 4, 5, or 6, somewhere between 4 and 7 buckets there. Not always. Some of the new data, and there are some really fancy graphs that change over time. We don't have to worry about those in this course. But sometimes those ones have got a whole ton of buckets. So right here, just by changing it to 10, gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, which is fine. That looks good to me. Sometimes you would have, for marks, even more, right? You would have all of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s, below 100. So there might be 6 there. And that's kind of what's happening here, but I've got 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on. So it looks pretty good. There's all the stuff there. Now, what the activity is going to have you do, you can play with this stuff in here. Hopefully you can get these numbers. Standard deviation, if you change and choose one of the other ones, again, STDEV, it'll be slightly off. It might be 18.2 or 17.9, but it'll be somewhere around there. For the Skittles data, what you're going to want to do is answer the question. I can't remember exactly what the question is. I'd have to look again. But it's something like, are there less orange than the rest of the colors in the packages? And you're going to want to see if you can come up with some reasoning and proof, and put it all on this slide right here, and give what you think. So we'll see if we can do this, as well as our Skittles data right here. Hopefully that helps. Excel is a Excel or Google Sheets is a super powerful spreadsheet program for doing a lot of this, averages, graphs, things like that you can use in projects and a whole bunch of different things if you're collecting your own data. Okay, hope that helps.